All right, hello. So hopefully this has gone live properly. I'm just going to check it with the YouTube dashboard sort of thing because at the moment, it's got that weird thing now where they basically do it differently. So what I'm going to do is, again, see if I can get the lighting a bit better. Because the problem with this light is it's quite a nice little lamp. I can never really get the colours and everything without making a weird shadow on my face or overexposing the camera. So I'm just going to see if I can get this working properly, and I'll get the live control panel up because that's better than the looking at the phone screen. So hopefully I'll get some people on in a minute. So let's set this up, and then I should be able to get the live stream thing on the PC. So that way I can look at the comments more easily because I can make the font not tiny. Right, there we go. So that's set up. Just in time. Police looks comfy. Yeah, it's from the old British Army one, so it is comfy. Not any at the moment, Carrot, because there's none I haven't done. Well, I mean, there's some I could do videos on, but you know what I mean? There's not any that I own that I haven't done videos on already to some degree. All right, Alex. So yeah, annoyingly, today was the, the day I handed in my blank firers to the police. Because of the amnesty thing that's on, because they changed the law, which again I completely disagree with, but annoyingly, because obviously I've done videos on them, everybody knows I own them, I had to do the I had to hand them in. Annoyingly, it wasn't very well organized, as a lot of us guessed would be the case, because lots of people didn't even know there was an amnesty. The police station I handed mine in at least knew it existed, the amnesty and all that, but they had to get a really senior police officer to actually help do the forms to sign them over, because they didn't know, the desk person didn't really know what they were doing with it. So, but at least, it was straightforward, and I got them to sign a bit of paper for me. I gave them a copy and I had my own copy because I wanted it signed to say I'd actually been in and handed them over. So if, later on the police say, oh, you haven't handed them over, and they turn up here, I can go, yeah, I have. Here's your copper's number, badge number and everything to sign them over. So, yeah, annoyingly, like I said, that's a load of money down the drain. But as I said, because when you buy them, you're registered as owning them. And I've done YouTube videos on those particular blank firers. Annoyingly, there was no way I could pretend I didn't own them. But as I've said to other people, not that I'd recommend people break the law, but if you're in the UK and you have a couple of the blank firers that are on the banned list now, I think the chance that they're going to chase them up is basically non-existent. So if you had them and, were never searched by the police or whatever, nothing I don't think is ever going to come of it. But as I said, it's one of those really annoying things that, it's just a law. So blank firers, so not all the blank firers I owned, but basically they, as of October last year, because I had to look up all the dates because I printed some stuff off for the police station in case they didn't know when I went in what was going on, because I heard from some other people that handed them in during the amnesty that certain police stations had no clue there was an amnesty on. So what it was is a load of the Turkish blank firers, say like Ecols and Retays. It was Psionic and Blows as well, but I didn't own any of those. They used to be legal in the UK for years and years, and then because we've had a change of government to an even worse government than the last one, they randomly decided that they weren't legal anymore, because they're like, oh, people use them in crimes. Yeah, but people use knives in crimes and whatever else. So basically they said, as of October they were illegal. They just changed the law, overnight. So like a day before they changed it and didn't tell anyone, you could legally own them, buy and sell them. Then as of when they declared it, immediately you weren't allowed to own them, buy or sell them anymore. And then they gave you till February to do the amnesty. So all of this month there's an amnesty on the Turkish guns, and basically legally you have to hand them in. But as I said, I don't think it's going to be enforced very well. But because, I've done YouTube videos with them and everything else, and I'm registered as owning them, I pretty much thought I'm going to be fucked if I don't hand them in, because they'll make an example out of me. But like I said, not that I'd recommend anyone breaks the law, but if you've if you own blank firers like those, and you know you don't do any YouTube stuff or anything with them publicly, the chance anything will ever come of it, I think, is pretty much zero. You know, like 0 point something %, because again, the UK police have that problem where there's a lot more crime than there is cops, and the government's always give them stupid things to do, like chasing up people saying mean things online. So going after firearms is probably quite low on their priority list. So yeah, annoyingly, there won't be any videos now of my Turkish blank firers, like the SMG one and those. I've done videos on them and that, but you know, there's not going to be any more videos, sadly, with those, because like I said, I've had to get rid of them now. So I can still do videos with the other blank firers. So my Italian blank firers, for whatever reason, those aren't on the ban. So make of that what you will. That, you know, it's one of those things where they've banned some of them but not banned others. And I don't know the logic of why they banned some and not banned others, but there you go. So with how the US is going at the moment, I don't think we want liberating by the US. But anyway, right. So yeah, if people want to talk about gas masks or whatever, that's fine. Hopefully we get... It says there's 29 people on, but there's not many people in the chat at the moment. But yeah, so... yeah, so like I said, that's the annoying thing. Had to hand mine in. I'll probably do a proper video on it fairly soon, just to say basically what happened. So, but yeah, so that was that. I see that inflation is getting worse in the UK and everything else. So, you know, it's... do I not have the subscriber mode on? If not, I'll have to put that on. Let me have a look. So I want to go into the thing. And is it customization? I don't know why it turns these off by default. You'd think you'd be able to have a default thing that is subscriber for 5 minutes. There you go. That stops the weirdos coming on that just spam the chat, because they never want to actually subscribe. So there we go. That's sorted. So yeah. All right, Rich. So yeah, I was just explaining to the people that were on that, you know, I've been to a police station. I actually had to go out my way to go to a police station actually to hand the blank firers in, because my local one is closed. There used to be 2 local ones and they're both closed. Well, actually, there used to be more than just 2 local ones that are all closed. So yeah, I had to go quite a decent car journey today. And if I wasn't able to get somebody to give me a lift to go in, I wouldn't have been able to surrender them. So, you know, it's a bit stupid because there's no public transport between me and the police station I had to go to to surrender them. And yeah, as everybody expected, this amnesty sort of ban thing is completely not working, because even though it's one of the only 3 police stations left in the county of Oxfordshire, so, you know, for however many hundreds of thousands of people in this area, I was apparently the first one to hand it in at that police station. Yeah, certain models of blank firers lit a picker for no real reason. And again, I know they gave the reason that people can turn them into live firearms, but I prefer the PMG just because it takes actual normal filters, not cheap filters, Monica. But yeah, it's like with me, Rich. If ever I need to do any proper banking stuff, not stuff you can do at the post offices, I have to go quite far away again now, because the one that used to be a 20-minute walk from my house down the local high street, like, you know, like a small like big village, small town sort of high street, that's closed. So now to do any proper banking, it's like a 30-minute car ride again. So yeah, banks like the police stations, there are barely any of them. Luckily, we still have a local post office, so I can still pay money in to a card and stuff like that. But yeah, you can't do much else at the small post office that's banking related. And again, I know you can do more stuff on the apps now than you used to be able to, but if you're an old person, whatever, you can't do that, can you? So again, it's one of these annoying things that they've made it, yeah, just because of cost cutting. But yeah, so as I said, to give you an idea, if I was the first person to hand any blank firers in during this amnesty that's only got about a week left, in the entirety of Oxfordshire, at least to that one police station out of the 3 that are operating there, that isn't a good idea. That isn't a good ratio of how many blank firing owners of the specifically banned models have handed them in, is it? Because it basically means that most people aren't complying with it or don't know it's even on. So like I said, probably tomorrow I'll do a video on this, because I did want to give people like a proper update on what's going on this, because like I said, because it's actually one of those bans and amnesties that's had to affect me, rather than just being one of those ones where I'm like, that's annoying, they're banning something, but luckily I don't own the things they're banning. You know, it's one of those things that, because it's personally affected me, that, you know, I reckon a lot of people, Miles, are just going to keep them. Because, again, firstly, you had to have known it was even happening, and lots of people don't even seem to know, because it's one of those things that there's been a couple of news articles done about it over the last few months. So, you know, unless you saw the news articles, you wouldn't have known they were being banned. And like I said, if what the police station said is true at the one I went to, if this is basically like the equivalent of saying in one of the US states, there was only 3 police stations you could hand something in that was being banned, and only one person had handed something in during that amnesty, you know, because, yeah, in the UK, we have roughly the same amount of counties, I think, to states. You know, it's a comparable thing if you think about the size of the UK to the size of the US, if you compare counties to states. So, yeah, if in the entirety of Oxfordshire County, there's only 3 police stations that are actually ones you can physically go in and speak to somebody at a, you know, desk now. Yeah, that ban is not working. If because I imagine it's a similar thing all across the UK, that, you know, for however many police stations, they're probably only getting 1 or 2 people complying with it. Because as we've said before with all these sort of things, if you're an actual criminal, you do not give a shit about amnesties and stuff like that, because you're not obeying the laws anyway if you're a criminal. Stuff like this is basically just to force law-abiding people to stay on the right side of the law. There's a good term that's used for stuff like the UK, which is anarcho-tyranny, basically where you have kind of a police state, but it doesn't really target real criminals, so it's like a really bad police state. It's the one that basically keeps regular people in line, but doesn't really deal with proper crime. That's interesting, Rich. What, so is it just a different size target, or like just a replacement one, or what? But yeah. Also, I said this to some people yesterday, but if you do have a blank firer and you were thinking of surrendering it, again, not encouraging anybody to break any laws, but have a very careful read of exactly the terminology they use on all of the things towards the banned guns, because what I discovered reading it is they only specify top venting. They don't say side venting. So if you have a side venting gun, technically that shouldn't be caught under these new laws. I think they mean it to be, but they haven't actually specifically mentioned it, so you'd have a legal defense. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so, you know, I'd advise you to get legal, you know, counsel and that sort of thing. But it's the sort of thing, again, where it seems like they haven't even worded the stuff properly to do with the laws. So, you know, you could probably get around them. I doubt it, seeing as they're getting blippity blop, seeing as they're banning more and more stuff. I doubt they're going to make any of the... All right, Gas Mask Allen, I doubt they're going to make any of the laws, you know, better. Yeah, sadly, Daryl, this wasn't even a buyback. Like I was saying, because if it was a buyback, it wouldn't have bothered me as much, even though I still wouldn't have liked it. But it's basically the thing of stuff you could buy up to a certain date is now illegal, and if you don't hand it in, you know, we are potentially going to prosecute you. I don't think so, Miles, because, again, they've used very specific terminology, and, like, the blank firing revolvers I've all bought recently, they don't even have a barrel. Like, they physically have a barrel, but it doesn't connect to the main bit of the gun. All right, cool, that's good, Rich. So yeah, you can actually use it, and it will stop the arrows, and they won't just go straight through it. So yeah, I think what it will end up being is that companies that sell blank firers in the UK probably will only risk doing it if they're the ones that are so far removed from the current rules, if you like, where they're so much above and beyond what you have to do, because the ones they banned were the ones that literally complied with the rules just about as they were. And then they said, oh, wait, we're making the rules stricter, essentially. Yeah, but as I said, sadly, it's the same. The UK is not a good company for stuff. Country, basically, might as well be a company of a nightmare future we're going towards. The UK is not a good country for stuff not being banned. It's basically one of those things where, because politicians can't sort out real crimes and stuff like that, they constantly just go, oh, let's ban another type of knife, let's ban a type of blank gun to pretend we're dealing with, like serious crimes. It's like when that scumbag killed those little girls recently, they were on about like cutting the tips off knives, weren't they, and making it harder to buy knives. It's like, that's not going to stop people going out and stabbing people, just making it harder to get a knife, because somebody who is going to basically, go and murder innocent people does not care about the rules regarding knives. And again, it was the weird thing where they were then going more on about kitchen knives than collector's type knives, which again is because they're the ones used in more of the crimes, and it makes sense in some ways. But it's just one of these weird things. It's like when they had this whole zombie knife things. They were gimmicky, stupid knives, but they didn't make them any more dangerous. Yeah, exactly. Because it's rather rich than look at things like Prevent and all those sort of things that totally failed, where the guy got flagged up several times and they basically said, oh, he's completely all right, he's not going to hurt anyone. Rather than those sort of people being held accountable that have actually fucked up, they're shifting the blame onto, oh, you could buy a knife on Amazon. It's like, yeah, he could have opened his parents' kitchen drawer and got a fucking knife out. It's one of those sort of things that, it's... And again, when I used to work retail, this might have changed now, but when I used to work retail, you had to ID people for knives, but you didn't have to ID them for claw hammers and a load of other deadly tools. So that person could have gone into a shop at least at that point, I don't know if it's changed now, and have bought a big claw hammer, and they could have just gone smashing people's heads in with a hammer rather than stabbing them. And then he wouldn't have had to have ID either. So it's... What are VODs? But all my streams are... You can watch all my streams back. Yeah, or just rob them, store for a knife, yeah. So what's video on demand? Isn't that just a streaming service? I don't get it. Because I don't think YouTube works like that. Yeah, Miles, yeah, I do get that, because it is weird, like in France, you're not allowed to own gas masks. I suppose that's because they like tear gassing people whenever they protest, but exactly, called exploiter. People could be smashed with bottles or stabbed with bottles, or screwdrivers is another one that's very easy to stab people with, a flathead screwdriver. RS, pretty much anywhere in the world you can keep in a drawer. Like, even in the UK, there's very few knives you can't actually own. Like I always say on these sort of videos, because I've got it right behind me. Like, legally in the UK, I can even have this. I mean, I dread the day that they start deciding all sorts of swords are banned. But, even with cutlasses and sabers and whatever else, to see if I can get that in frame without cutting my phone to pieces, because it's quite long. Even with the UK, you can still own proper swords at the moment. So, it's one of those things that if it's in your house, it's never a problem for most of the things. The thing is, you're not allowed to just take them out and about with you. No gas masks at the moment. I've got my eye on, because like I said, at the moment, I'm tidying loads of shit up and throwing stuff away, selling some stuff, that kind of stuff. So at the moment, I'm trying to downsize my equipment rather than get more. Yeah, that's the cold steel version of the British 1796 cavalry saber. That's the light cavalry saber, because there's a heavy cavalry saber, which is the straight blade one that Sean Bean has in sharp. So it's called a light cavalry saber. It's on the heavy side for a saber, but yeah, it's the light one. There's an even heavier one the British Army used during the Napoleonic Wars, and that's the heavy cavalry saber. Yeah, that's what I was just saying all throughout the stream, Channing. Yeah, I mean, they've only been able to be given the ones that I still actually own, because I don't own all the ones I had originally anyway, because not because I knew a ban was coming, or else I'd have sold all of mine, but like two of them broke ages ago and I cannibalized them for parts. That was the revolver and the Makarov, because they had really bad firing pins in them. So when those broke, I just basically used the springs and bits from them in case I needed repairs for my other bits, bin some of the broken bent bits of metal. So again, those they couldn't really even have if they wanted them, because like I said, I've just cannibalized those. And that one of the ones, I'm pretty certain I sold one of them years ago, or like over a year ago anyway, because one of the ones wasn't with all my other blank pistols, and I looked and looked for ages, and I do vaguely remember selling a load of stuff to somebody I know. So I'm pretty sure that one got sold on. So the person I think who paid me for it, I did send a message to, and said to them, there is a ban, at the moment, and they said I don't care, basically. So, but yeah, I handed two in today, and apparently I was the only person at that police station that had handed any in yet. So that gives you an idea how well this amnesty and ban is going, is that most people are not complying with it or don't even know it's a thing. So I am, like I said earlier in the stream, I am going to do a video on this, probably tomorrow, explaining, like what's happened so far and how badly organized this thing is, like all of it. And as well, if you read the small print of a lot of what they've said about the Turkish blank firers, there's lots of bits where they refer to top venting and not side venting. So again, that's going to get them into a lot of legal issues later on if they try and prosecute somebody of any of the side venting ecols or whatever, because some of the ecols are side venting. So if they've only specified it as being top venting ones that are banned, that's going to cause them issues later down the line, because if they've, stated it as one thing in one place, and then they try and take somebody to court over it, and it's not exactly as they stated it, a good lawyer will get that person off. All right, Soviet Gaming. It hasn't been. The National Crime Agency had a thing on it in October, and the BBC have had a couple of small, like, local articles on it for various places, and I think some newspapers have done things on it, and that's been it. It's not been, a commonly advertised things. I doubt the grenade was live at somewhere like Rio, but yeah, I know people that have gone to military fairs and bought stuff that you can't actually legally buy online, or you need the paperwork to buy online. Like, the thing is that a lot of military fairs is people can buy the airsoft guns that aren't two-tone, even though they're meant to be sold as two-tone ones. Again, it's one of those things. I'm glad that people can still buy that sort of stuff, but it just makes me laugh that they put all these rules in place, and then person-to-person cash sales. Yeah, you're not stopping people doing that, are you? Yeah, well, the thing I always think about Mr. Ultra Newman, whatever your name's pronounced, sorry, the text is quite small, is lithium fucking batteries on phones, because, not phones, on flights, in laptops or phones, because they can blow up pretty well. I've still got the S6 somewhere, yeah. Yeah, Channing, it was really sloppy, because first they said it was going to be like specific models, and then they, instead of doing the models, they just said the four brands, like the brands were models: Ecol, Rite, Psionic, and Blow. So they first screwed that kind of thing up, where I was hoping to start with, it was going to be like they were going to say a couple of particular models of Rite, a couple of particular models of like Ecols and stuff like that. And then, like I said, there's all this stuff where they mention top venting and they don't mention side venting and stuff like that. So again, like I was saying, if somebody's got a good lawyer and they kept hold of some of them, I bet you there'd be a lot of like get outs on stuff like that where they haven't specified stuff, properly that way. Um, Ah, chatting. That's interesting. Yeah, because like I said, my one, I had to go to Abingdon because another problem I was saying to people earlier is I'm in Oxfordshire, and there's only 3 police stations left in the entire county where you can physically go in and they've got a front desk. I assume you mean siege, not the sage. Yeah, you mean the SAS blasting the terrorists. Yes, I know the Iranian embassy siege. That's the one that's in 6 days and a couple of other films. But yeah, and they said the same thing, that in Abingdon police station, I was the only one to have handed one in so far. Well, I handed 2 in, but like the ones that I've still got that meet the criteria of what they wanted. Right, so the reason Call Exploiter the blanks we don't have front venting guns in the UK is, in theory, if you had a front venting blank gun, although somebody wouldn't be able to fire a full-on cartridge out of it, I think the worry is that somebody can just put something down the barrel, use a blank, and have an improvised kind of quite powerful BB gun or something that way. So in the UK, they made them have to be side or top venting, so you couldn't, physically just blast stuff out the front of the barrel, which again is annoying because in countries where you can have the front venting ones, you can actually have the blank guns that shoot little flares. So you can have them as like distress things, where if you're in the wilderness, they've got little flare launchers. Yeah, that's why they became side and top venting, because it was much harder to shoot anything out of them. But again, it's like I said, it's a whole ship of Theseus philosophical argument with how they've said about these, because the problem is that it's not a case that somebody literally gets a blank gun, gets a power drill out and somehow has a full-on functioning firearm. If you see some of the ones where the police have actually had the blank guns they've seized converted into live firearms, it's where somebody's like rebarreled the entire thing, replaced loads of parts of higher pressure parts, made a custom mag for it to feed whatever round they're going to put into it. Yeah, exactly, Call Exploiter. That's what I'm saying. It's basically somebody has to go to so much effort to convert them that, again, in the National Crime Agency thing, they said the thing that I don't believe. They said anybody with very limited knowledge and basic tools could convert one. No, you can't, because you'd need an angle grinder and lots of other like proper tools, not just a power drill or something. And you'd need actual knowledge of what parts needed to be replaced, the ones that would take higher pressure. So again, like I said, I've complied with the law, but I completely don't agree with it. Yeah, as Channing said, you need a milling machine. So it's one of those things that, yeah, somebody with a proper workshop and knowledge could do it, but I don't believe, like they said, because basically they said they tested every single model that Eco and Rete and all that did, and all of them they found they could do with it. And again, I don't believe that. I don't believe they tested every single Turkish blank fire on the UK market and found they could be easily done. I reckon they tested a couple of them and then said, let's ban all of them. But like I said, I don't think this amnesty and ban is going to work very well, because like I said, if the anecdotal thing I've heard from a lot of people is only 1 or 2 people have apparently handed them in at their local police stations. And when I say local police stations, I mean like the 1 in 4 police stations for each county left in the UK you can physically go in and talk to a cop. So I don't think, again, that if there are illegal ones going around that are being used in crimes, they're not going anywhere. Just as the real guns that are smuggled into this country aren't going anywhere. It's just law-abiding people that are punished because politicians want to pretend they're doing something. Not with the type of governments we've got at the moment, Call Exploiter. I don't know if someone like Reform came in, if they'd change it. But with the Tories or Labour or the Lib Dems, no. Especially not with Labour. They just love banning stuff. Including your speech and things like that. Like I said, the current UK political system I do not like at all. I'd be considered either far left or far right by most of the mainstream people. Even I wouldn't consider myself far left or far right. But, because I don't think Labour are actual socialists, and I don't think, the Conservatives are actually Conservatives. Yeah, as we said, call exploiter. None of this is actually going to happen. Criminals can literally get real guns really easily. If they're into proper organized crime, they get guns smuggled into the UK all the time via, the small boats, illegal immigrant stuff like that, or manufactured in machine shops with 3D printing and whatever else. If you're an actual or proper hardened criminal, you will have no issue getting proper stuff like that. Yeah, there's a police staff shortage. Right, so Dark Knight, how they could actually enforce it if they really wanted to and had the manpower, which they don't, is in theory, every time you bought a blank firer over the last few years, the company that sold it has to inform the police of the serial number of the blank firer and your name and address of who bought it. So they have records technically. Like I say, that was one of the reasons I handed them in, because I've done YouTube videos on them and they have the records. They could chase the records up. But the problem is, like I said, if they've got a police shortage as it is, they're not going to go for all those records. And the problem with these records is, obviously, if you moved address or you sold it to somebody in a face-to-face sale, which you could legally do before the ban happened, there's not a record then of where it is. And you'd have to then hope that the person you interviewed was honest and said, oh, this was the person I sold it to at this address. But if you sold it in a face-to-face sale at a car boot sale or whatever, which you could have legally done, they're not going to have the name and address, are they? Yeah, again, Litter Picker, the ammunition is the hardest part of all of this, not the actual firearms themselves. It's the same reason we have the obsolete firearms laws. Because, again, some of the old bolt actions I've got have such weird old cartridges that you're never going to be able to commercially find anyone mass producing them. Like, even people in America tend to have to hand reload those rounds. Yeah, Rich, for the most part, my opinion on it is I don't trust the government to do things, so I'd rather they didn't interfere with my business, because generally everything the government touches turns to shit, no matter which government we have. It's like the Midas touch, but the opposite way around. That every time they try and get involved in something, they just make it worse, because they're completely inept people that rise to the top in those sort of political parties. Yeah, I agree, Zen. The UK really sucks. Like I said, I don't have a problem with my country, but I have a lot of problems with the last sort of couple of decades of people running it. Because it's, again, the UK has the problem a bit like America, where if you vote, Democrat or Republican in America, or you vote, Labour or Conservative in the UK, it's not going to help your average person. A lot of the politics is so far removed from normal people and normal issues. Yeah, cool exploiter. That's the point I'm making. That yeah, it's mostly full on live rounds being smuggled in, I would imagine, via gangs. Because again, if you think of how many illegal immigrants we constantly have crossing the channel, a lot of those are probably paying back their debts by smuggling guns and ammunition and drugs. And I imagine it's a similar thing with the US border, with Mexico. That I imagine a lot of the fentanyl and stuff like that can just be smuggled across the border. It's not people domestically making it or whatever. It's if they can't enforce borders properly, that stuff gets in. So yeah, because like I said, with the US at the moment, I was hoping Trump would upset the apple cart a bit, but now Trump is basically tariffing all the allies of the US, like the UK. He's fucking over Ukraine now by sucking Putin's dick. I think he might be even worse than Biden. I don't actually know what he's doing. Like, I'd like to think this is some sort of 4D, 5D chess sort of thing where he's actually going to do something clever, but I don't think he is. I think he's gone from having a first term where I actually didn't think Trump was too bad and just couldn't get a lot of stuff done, to now I think surrounding himself by, idiots and just, doing really, really dumb things. Because again, the tariffs if the US tariffs everybody they normally trade with, those countries are going to trade with China, and that's going to put the US in an even worse position. So, I don't even know what's going on with the US. A lot of people over here that don't like our government go, look what a great job Trump's doing. Like, I think he's doing a good job cutting a lot of the wasted, pointless spending the US was doing with that USAID or USAID thing, because the UK does a similar thing, where, when you see how many problems we have in our own country and how much money gets sent to foreign countries, you know, like 500,000 here, a few million, you know, there, for pointless kind of, you know, like stuff they were doing there. Yeah, I know. I can't show your comment. Or actually, has that worked? Because normally it doesn't work when I click show or hide with the comments anymore. But I think it's just accelerating worse over time, isn't it, though? It's kind of like every time you think the next one can't be any worse, they always do get worse. And then you think, wow, Tony Blair didn't seem too bad in comparison to some of these people, sort of thing. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, though, that since around the time of World War One, that the UK has completely kind of self-destructed itself through, you know, wars it shouldn't have got involved in and various things. But yeah, but I think a lot of countries, though, to be honest, seem to be kind of having existential problems at the moment. Yeah, again, it's a population difference in numbers, isn't it, called exploiter? And again, a lot of the time in the UK, it's because other criminals are less likely to have guns. A lot of the time, it's people stabbing each other. Whereas if more guns ended up being used in crimes, there'd probably be a bit of an arms race where shootings became more common. But yeah, at the moment, I think, yeah, a lot of it is if you can knife somebody, you're probably just going to knife somebody and then throw the knife away because it's a very easy disposable. I think even in the US, though, if I remember right, there's more homicides with knives than there are with guns. Just because a lot of, you know, like domestic ones and like muggings are still done with knives in the US. Because I know it's like one of those things where when people complain about the US gun numbers, they actually conveniently ignore a lot of other causes of death, like car accidents and things like that, if it's not relevant to their argument, you know, where cherry picking the data is eBay. I can at least tell you where I get gas masks from, mostly eBay. Sometimes private sales, sometimes I bought from, you know, physical surplus shops or online surplus shops, but mostly eBay. But yeah, in terms of gas masks, at least, unlike the blank firers or obsolete firearms, whatever else, I can at least tell you where I get those from because YouTube's policy doesn't have a problem with it. But yeah, when somebody was asking about that nice CSA revolver I got from by Pieta the other day, I couldn't tell the person where I got it from, annoyingly, because yeah, YouTube policy, because it counts blanks like YouTube counts blanks as real firearms under their policies, you can't actually link people to sites that sell them. I think that's the same with even like magazines and stuff now, like firearms accessories. YouTube's completely banned people from linking to. And again, look how often you get terrorist attacks and that with cars and trucks, where somebody just rams a crowd of them, because you can't ban cars, can you? You know, and we shouldn't ban cars. But it's this sort of thing where if somebody wants to commit a murder or mass murder, they are going to find some way of doing it. Because if they don't care about their own life and just want to hurt other people, they're just going to find a way of doing it. And, you know, like I said, and that's why a lot of the lone wolf type attacks, as much as, yeah, like earlier we were blaming security services, especially when it's people known to them that get flagged up over and over, and every time they just write it off. When it is a lone wolf attack, it is very hard for security services to actually deal with them, just simply because of the reason that, you know, if somebody decides one day they're going to go out and do something and they haven't told other people and it's not an organized plot, there's almost no digital signature or whatever that can be eavesdropped on before somebody goes out and does something. So, you know, that in regards to that, like, you know, that's one of the reasons you can't sort of stop those sort of things. The only way you could stop them is actually have a society where people have similar values. This is going to make me far right now, where, you know, you have a society where people have similar values and, you know, morals and stuff like that, and probably don't have loads of people in poverty that's so fucked over that they have nothing to live for. You know, if you had a society like that, where, you know, like how a lot of countries used to be going back a while ago, you'd probably have a lot less terrorism and mass shootings and murders and stuff like that. But, you know, when I was actually out today, we went into the library to get some books, and the library there now had a hot drink station, as in like tea and coffee, like a place people could sit if they were homeless or elderly because they couldn't afford heating, like charging banks, free food, free period products and stuff like that. Because, yeah, just the amount of poverty is getting worse and worse in the UK. And again, like I said, we're meant to have a socialist government at the moment, and not very fucking socialist because they don't help poor people. So, or not the right type of poor people, So it's, again, you've got the economy is constantly inflating over here. It's getting more and more expensive. People's wages don't go up in real time with the expenses, so people are getting poorer and more desperate. I wish I could not sound so bleak when I talk about the UK, but it's genuinely quite fucked. Here's the thing. I reckon they're neoliberals, Channing, and what I mean by that is that they're kind of this, like, people on the right will call them socialist or communist Labour, but I don't actually think they are. I think they might have communist ideology, some of the people, but they're not actually helping the poor. So they're this kind of horrible mix of, they want to tear down a lot of the stuff that's already here, but a lot of the stuff they're going to help is big businesses, like where they're fucking over a lot of the farmers and everything at the moment. That's not causing problems to the really rich, like mass industry type farms owned by really rich companies. It's destroying family farms. And like a lot of the things they've messed about with in the budget aren't hurting really big businesses. They're hurting family businesses or small businesses, small to medium businesses. So again, it's this sort of thing where they're kind of these weird globalist neoliberals that might have some communist ideology, but they're not actually all right, DIY specialist. But yeah, I'd agree with you there. Like I said, I don't think I'm in the point of despairing, but I'm kind of just apathetic to it at this point. That every day on the news, you hear of another thing the government's just fucked up or stuff getting worse, and you're just like, oh, par for the course, isn't it? I mean, the only thing you can hope is if stuff gets so bad, it will eventually get better. But I don't know how bad it has to get before that happens. Like I keep saying, the country that, and I know there's lots of YouTube channels that try and say otherwise, but the country that is doing really well at the moment is China. Because China has been investing in its own sort of shit rather than wasting money abroad. When they do stuff abroad, it's like Belt and Road stuff they get money back from. And China's idea is lift people out of poverty, so they've actually got lots of people to spend money. And I know there is like some financial things in China too, of like the housing market and stuff that isn't good. But in terms of, I think America will probably be in the next 100 years completely on the decline. And I think it's going to be China now that's going to be like the world superpower, in all honesty. Some people are going to be very upset with that, but I just think that's the way it's going to go. Like, I think, like communist China, if you want to call it that, the CCP's China, mainland China, is going to be the country that, keeps getting better and better tech because they've got lots of investment in it. I don't actually know about the new one, RS, because they did have the bullpup thing, didn't they? Like the Type 96, whatever it's called. Have they replaced that with just an AR type thing? Have they? Let me look up Chinese military rifles, because I don't actually, because they used to have AKs, didn't they? Then they replaced them with the like bullpup thing, the QBZ-95. But yeah, I think they've replaced that again, haven't they? Or they're in the purpose of replacing it. Is it the QBZ-191? A new one? Because if so, that looks like sort of an AR ripoff. I'm just reading it. So it's designed by Norinco. Yeah, it doesn't say on here, but I'm assuming the Type 191, the new one, it looks a lot like an AR. Looks quite nice, but like I said, it's probably because everybody likes ARs, typically in terms of military, so they're probably just doing an AR type design. Yeah, exactly, DIY specialist. Yeah, all right, Iron Man. Yeah, I thought it was you, Iron Man, but Yeah, I can get you there, Cool Exploiter, because I think you get to a point, don't you, where you kind of start stagnating or slowing down once you expand to a certain size. But I certainly think China's doing better than a lot of other countries at the moment. But like you said, the housing, yeah. But for what I understand, isn't some of the housing really bad like that, but some of it is actually all right. It just depends on which contractor did it and how corrupt they were, essentially. Because I know a lot of the old Chinese commie blocks are actually built to a good standard. I mean, you know, they're commie blocks, but they're not falling down. And they've obviously built some stuff over recent years that's very well built. So I'm assuming it's, you know, again, one of the sort of things where it depends who is building it, who, if they're getting money from people or whatever. But yeah, I think in general, the world isn't in a very good place. And like I said, I wanted to get a new PC recently. And thankfully, I didn't actually order one at the point I was going to order it, because the NVIDIA 5090s I was looking at, loads of those have had problems where they're melting because they've not got proper thermal protections on them like the 3090 I've got. And even the AMD processor I was looking at, a few people have had ones that have burnt the motherboard and the processors have like set on fire. So at the moment, sort of, again, it's like I really need to get a new PC because this one is sort of on the way out. Not all the components, but, you know, enough that I don't want to just replace some components in this one. I just rather keep this one as a backup PC and then get a newer PC. But even with that, I'm sort of constantly going, I don't want to risk getting it yet until, like, you know, there's revisions done of all of this hardware, because of, again, companies now, again, they do this thing where they put absolute shit on the market to start with, and then you have to wait a while, you know, where it all gets exposed before they do better models of stuff. Because from what I understand, with the 5090s, it's like 2 of the pins pull way too much power through them. They didn't evenly, you know, like with the 3090 I've got, like the power goes through all the power cables into the GPU pretty evenly. But with the 5090, it just does like loads of power through one of the little cables. Yeah, I've heard about all that sort of stuff, like real market sort of scams. I think that's happened in Russia as well, similar stuff. Again, in BRICS, I don't know how many of the BRICS countries are particularly good. Like India is obviously developing more and more. Like India is developing a lot slower than China, but it is getting richer. Brazil, I don't know too much about, in all honesty. Russia is going the opposite way. Putin has completely, you know, destroyed anything of foreign investment for the most part in Russia and stuff with his war in Ukraine, because obviously they stole a lot of Western property, or Western companies pulled out. So Russia is probably going to be the weakest member of BRICS. And again, South Africa, I don't particularly know with South Africa. I know there's a lot of poverty. I know there's been a lot of government corruption. You know, after apartheid ended, there was kind of a period of hope, I guess, for South Africa, and I think it's going the other way again, isn't it? But again, like I said, the UK is not doing well, so it's not like I'm boasting about how good this country is. I'm just sort of saying that I think a lot of countries are in a pretty shit state right now. Anyway, I won't be on too much longer because I've been on nearly 50 minutes. But yeah, I just wanted to do this stream today because I hadn't done one in a while. Just to say about, you know, handing in the blank guns and that. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow I'll have time and I'll do a proper video explaining all about how that blank fire ban is going. Because I know some people watch proper videos and stuff. And when I do videos on that sort of stuff, it often ends up more popular than the gas mask stuff and that, because it's kind of politics based, which I think interests people. Because funnily enough, videos I've done complaining about the UK governments and things like that end up getting more popular than a lot of my proper videos. So, you know, go figure. But yeah, so thanks for coming on, everybody. Don't forget to like the stream before you go off, because, you know, I think that even if, give it a dislike if you like, but generally I think if people like the videos, it tends to mean that they get shared to my subscribers a bit more, because again, the problem with YouTube is that you know, you can be subscribed to channels and never get notified that they've uploaded new videos, and you can have stuff shoved in your feed from channels you're not even subscribed to. So, you know, I know with at least my feed, it's really annoying because so much of the time I'm, you know, shoved videos I have no interest in, whereas people I'm actually subscribed to, I don't get notified when they do upload. So, cheers. Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping Channing to do that tomorrow. Friday is my granddad's, well, his birthday's on Saturday, but on Friday I'm going over to see him. It's my granddad's 100th birthday. So, Friday I doubt I'll be doing anything. Maybe I'll film a little video of him opening his birthday cards or whatever, to put on YouTube, even though it's not my normal sort of content. But, you know, making it to 100 is a pretty good age. So I'll, you know, obviously be seeing him then again and be working very long hours at the weekend as usual. I've been working even more and more hours recently at the weekends just because we've been busier and busier where I work. So it's one of those strange things where, despite the fact apparently people are, you know, running out of money in that, not where I work, it seems. Not that it affects me getting a raise or anything. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Channing. So yeah, have a good day, everybody. And like I said, I will catch everybody when I next do a video. But yeah, like I said, that blank fire ban, amnesty type thing doesn't seem to be going very well, because they didn't advertise it well enough, and I think a lot of people are just not complying with it. So, you know, right, have a good day.